Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Council meeting of the 24th of July 2023. We'll commence by reading the Acknowledgement of Country, and I invite Councillor Hollingsworth to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land and pay my respects to their elders past and present and to elders from other communities who may be listening this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to tonight's Council meeting. Before we commence the meeting, I request that all mobile telephones are switched off or turned to silent, please. The Council meeting is being live streamed on the Council website so you can watch the proceedings of the meeting, councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the Council website as soon as practicable after the meeting tonight. My name is Councillor Felicity Sinfield and I'm the Mayor of the City of Boroondara. I'll start by introducing my fellow councillors, and seated to my left at the horseshoe table in the Council chamber are Councillor Park, Councillor Watson, Councillor Stavrou, Councillor Galt, Councillor Gillies, and on the opposite side, Councillor Hollingsworth, Councillor Addis, Councillor Biggar and Councillor Franco. I also acknowledge in attendance this evening our Chief Executive Officer, Philip Storer, seated to my right, and our Coordinator of Governance, Ms Kirsten Ritchie, seated to my left. There are several other officers in attendance this evening and they will be introduced as required. So I'll now move to apologies. Ms Ritchie, I think we have one this evening.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, there is one apology, Councillor Thompson, who is on a leave of absence.
Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda is the adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the Council meetings held on the 19th of June 2023 and the 26th of June 2023. Councillors, I'm in search of a motion to adopt and confirm the minutes. Councillor Galt.
As issued, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Biggar.
Yes, happy to second.
Thank you. Is that opposed? I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 2 on our agenda is declaration of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officer. Councillors and council officers, are there any conflicts of interest that you wish to foreshadow for a matter on tonight's agenda? Councillor Park.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to an application for leave of absence that will be raised in general business, I have a conflict.
Thank you. And Councillor Gillies.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I seem to have a frog in my throat. The item relating to Camberwell High School, I have a material conflict of interest.
Thank you. And Councillor Biggar.
Yes, also similar to Councillor Park regarding a leave of absence.
Thank you. Just make a note of those so we don't forget when we get to the end. Item 3 on our agenda is deputations and presentations, petitions, public submissions. Do we have any of those this evening? I think we do have one petition.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, we have one petition for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, and that is shown on the screen there. There is one petition with 20 signatures. Is anyone prepared to move a motion to receive and receive and note the petition as printed in our business papers? Councillor Addis.
I'm happy to so move, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a matter in your ward, and do we have a seconder? Councillor Stavrou. Thank you. And is anyone opposed to that? I don't imagine so. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4 is the informal meetings of councillors, and I've been informed that there is an error in the summary of informal meetings of councillors, as Councillor Hollingsworth was not in attendance at the CB&D meeting held on the 10th of July 2023. This will be corrected when the summary is annexed to the minutes. So, councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion to receive and note the record of informal meetings of councillors with that correction? Councillor Hollingsworth.
So moved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Galt.
Seconded.
Thank you. Is anyone opposed? No further changes. I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item 5, public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 noon on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 noon will be provided with a detailed verbal response as well as a response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Ms Ritchie, do we have any public questions submitted for this evening's meeting?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have 3 questions submitted by 2 people this evening.
Thank you. Question 1 submitted by Mr Dean Hurlston. I'm not sure if you're with us this evening or perhaps online. The subject of the question is cost shifting from state government. Thank you, Mr Hurlston, for the question. This question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of our governance rules. And the question reads, can Council please advise of the dollar amount of cost shifting from state government they estimate they incurred in 2022-23 financial year? And I call upon our Chief Financial Officer, Amy Montalti, to respond to this question, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Council estimates this amount at approximately $16 million. Some of the service areas impacted by state government cost shifting include the provision of library services, maternal and child health, landfill and waste services, electrical line clearance, building services, and disaster recovery, to name a few. A tangible comparison for the community is that contextually $16 million in cost shifting equates to 4 years of rate rises in a rate cap environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr Hurlston and Mr Granger, you'll receive a written response to your question in due course. Question 2 is submitted by Mr Ian Hundley, I think he's with us tonight. The subject of the question is informed public participation in the development of Macleay and Myrtle Park Master Plan. Thank you for your question. This question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules and reads, will Council now undertake a comprehensive public consultation process on the Macleay and Myrtle Parks Master Plan to include face-to-face dialogue in meetings with park users and relevant technical experts, and also provide a detailed study of the current informal use of these parks for public review and discussion? Thank you, Mr Hundley, for your question, and I will call upon the Director of Places and Spaces, Mr Daniel Freer, to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. There are 2 key phases of consultation plan for the development of the Myrtle Macleay Park Master Plan. The initial phase, which is currently underway, includes the meeting as described in the question, an online survey open to all residents, a meeting with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation, and a range of technical consultants. This information will be utilised to create a draft master plan, which will then be made to the broad public once again for review, engagement and comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Freer. Our third and final question, also from Mr Hundley this evening, and the subject is rezoning of land in the Union Station area. This question is also allowed in accordance with the governance rules and reads as follows. What communications have Burundara Council had with the Victorian Government since November 2022 concerning the possible rezoning of land in the area to be served by the new Union Station in Surrey Hills for a higher density development and to enhance taxable value on any plans to develop land or airspace in the rail corridor adjacent to the station for commercial or residential use? Thank you, Mr Hundley, for your question, and I'll call upon the Director of Urban Living, Mr Scott Walker, to respond to this question, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Council has not had any discussions with the level crossing removal project in relation to the rezoning of surplus land associated with the Union Station project to facilitate private development outcomes. Council's understanding is that land in the vicinity of the project will be used for public open space purposes. There is no mechanism available to obtain value capture for the project, and the project area is not subject to the provisions of the Suburban Rail Loop Act. Should the LXRP contemplate surplus land being used to achieve a private development outcome, the LXRP would need to advance a planning scheme amendment to rezone land to a more appropriate zone, such as the general residential zone, residential growth zone, or commercial 1 zone. The LXRP would then be subject to the provisions of the windfall gains tax, which would be triggered at gazettal of a planning scheme amendment to rezone land. The windfall gains tax acts as a value capture mechanism more broadly across the state.
Thank you, Mr Walker. Mr Hunley, you will receive a written response to both of those questions in due course. That finishes public question time and takes us to item 6 on the agenda, notices of motion. Ms Ritchie, do we have any notices of motion this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are no notices of motion for this evening.
Thank you. Item 7 is the presentation of officer reports. Does any councillor have any issues with the order of the agenda this evening or wish to flag a particular item for discussion or questions of officers? If not, I might suggest that there is an opportunity to move a couple of items en bloc this evening as per the officer's recommendation. And they are on the screen behind me, items 7.1, 7.2 and 7.6. So I'm now in search of a motion or somebody to move the motion that is on the screen there, to move those items en bloc as per the officer recommendation. Councillor Addis.
I'm happy to so move those 3 items en bloc.
Thank you. And Councillor Stavrou, happy to second. Is anyone opposed to that? I don't see any lights on. I'll then put that motion to the vote. Councillor Addis, did you want to speak to that?
And probably only just to say when we move on block, it's because we've read it and are satisfied and have no questions. So it's a measure of our confidence in what's being proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Addis. I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Thank you, and thank you to the officers who have prepared those reports for us. So with items 7.1 and 7.2 having been moved en bloc, that brings us to item 7.3. This matter is the proposed sale of land from discontinued road at the rear of 4 of 980 Burke Road in Balwyn. This item will be introduced by Mr Michael Hutchinson, Head of Strategic Property and Revenue, and Ms Montalti. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. This report is to consider commencement of the statutory procedures to sell the land from the previously discontinued road at the rear of Unit 4, 980 Burke Road in Balwyn. The land in question is 22 square metres and forms part of a previously discontinued road running along the rear of 976 to 988 Burke Road, 6 to 14 Will Street and adjoining to Eyre Street, Balwyn. And this area in question is shown hatched on attachment 2. In summary, the land is in the name of the original subdivider. It has been enclosed within the land at Unit 4, 980 Burke Road, Balwyn for an excess of 15 years and is considered by officers to be of little value to council. It is noted in the report that has been prepared by applying the principles contained within the Discontinuance of Roads and Reserves Policy adopted in August 2022. The owner of Unit 4, 980 Burke Road, Balwyn has made a conditional offer to purchase the land, including costs, which is consistent with the policy. The adjoining owners have been consulted on the proposal and no objections have been received. Should Council resolve to commence the statutory procedures, a public notice will be placed on Council's webpage and notification in writing will be made directly to all abutting property owners, informing them of the opportunity to provide feedback. If any submissions are received, a further report will be presented to a future meeting of the Services Delegated Committee to enable the consideration of any submissions and for a decision on whether or not to sell the land. If no submissions are received, Officers will undertake the necessary procedural steps to complete the formal process for the sale of the land. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hutchinson. I believe we do have a couple of questions on the screen here. Councillor Galt.
Just a clarification on the address of the property. Is the beneficiary, if we proceed with this sale, is the beneficiary of this sale to Unit 4 or the whole of the property? In other words, does the land around Unit 4 attach to the title of that property, or is it common?
Through you, Madam Chair. The attachment number 2 shows a blue hatched area, and that's the area directly behind Unit 4. And the area, I guess, north of that, joining 980 to 982, that's the common property driveway that runs down. So that part's not being put forward in this proposal. It's only the blue hatched part, which has direct rebuttal to the property Unit 4.
Councillor Watson.
No question, but prepared to move a motion at the appropriate time.
Thank you. It appears there are no further lights on. That might be now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Beer.
Yes, I'm very happy to second that.
Thank you. And to assist the mover, is there anyone opposed? No lights on. Back to you, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief as there is no opposition. This is a long-standing program to rationalise council assets, and I fully support the process and thank the officers for the work that they've done, and look forward to seeing the resolution of this matter, and commend this motion to my colleagues.
Thank you. As it's not opposed, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.4 is the proposed discontinuance and sale of drainage reserve adjoining 4 View Street and the rear of 36 and 38 Hopeton Avenue in Canterbury. This item will also be introduced by Mr Hutchinson.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Councillors, before you is a report to consider commencement of the statutory procedures to remove the reserve status and sell the drainage reserve adjoining 4 View Street and the rear of 36 and 38 Hopeton Avenue in Canterbury. The report details the background to the proposal. The land in question forms part of a 0.91 metre wide drainage reserve adjoining the property and adjoining 4 View Street in Canterbury. It has an area of 38 square metres. The reserve is shown hatched in attachment 1. In summary, the reserve is in the name of the original subdivider. It contains a council drain, and an easement is proposed to be created in favour of council over the land to protect the drain. It has been enclosed within 4 View Street, Canterbury in excess of 15 years and is considered by officers to be no longer required for the purpose for which it was reserved and therefore of little value to council. It is noted this report has been prepared applying the principles contained within the Discontinuance of Roads and Reserves policy adopted in August 2022. The owner of 4 View Street, Canterbury, has made a conditional offer to purchase the land, including costs, which is consistent with the policy. The adjoining property owners have been consulted on the proposal and no objections have been received. Should Council resolve to commence the statutory procedures, a public notice will be placed on Council's webpage and notification in writing will be made directly to all abutting property owners, informing them of the opportunity to provide feedback. If any submissions are received, a further report will be presented to a future meeting of the Services Delegated Committee to enable the consideration of any submissions and for a decision on whether or not to sell the land. If no submissions are received, officers will undertake the necessary procedural steps to complete the formal process for the sale of the land. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? It appears not. Maybe Councillor Addis, I'm in search of a motion.
Just a motion when the time comes.
And that's now?
The officer's recommendation that's up on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Watson.
Happy to second that motion.
Thank you. And to assist the mover, is there anyone opposed to this? It appears not. Councillor Addis, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you very much. So, as we heard, this is something that's been in effect for over 15 years. So it's really, I think, a process about formalising something that's been in existence. And the process does allow anyone who believes they're going to be affected in an adverse way to put in a submission. So I feel very confident that there's a formal process that will ensure proper handling of this. Thank you, so I'm happy to move the motion.
Thank you. As there is nobody opposed, I'll now put that matter to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is item 7.5, Camberwell High School at 100A Prospect Hill Road in Canterbury, proposed discontinuance and sale of the carriageway and easement and road. Councillor Gillies, would you like to... Councillor Gillies has declared a conflict of interest in relation to this item and will leave the chamber while this matter is discussed. This item will be introduced also by Mr Michael Hutchinson, Head of Strategic Property and Revenue.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Councillors, before you is a report to consider commencement of the statutory procedures to discontinue the 3.05 metre wide carriageway easement road located within the title boundary of Camberwell High School, located at 100A Prospect Hill Road in Camberwell, and to sell and transfer for a nominal consideration plus costs the land in the road to the Minister for the Crown administering the Education and Training Acts. The report details the background to the proposal and has been prepared applying the principles contained within the Discontinuance of Roads and Reserves Policy adopted in August 2022. In summary, the school's title shows a 3.05 metre wide carriageway easement. This is shown highlighted yellow and yellow hatched in attachment 1. The school have expressed concerns around the safety and security of students, staff and school visitors associated with the unrestricted access to its Year 7 and 8 student play and learning areas via this carriageway easement. These safety and security concerns have been exacerbated in recent years following a number of incidents where drivers of motor vehicles have attempted to travel in a northerly direction along the carriageway easement toward Prospect Hill Road. While it appears as an easement on the school's title, council solicitors are of the view that the northern part of the easement, shown yellow hatched in attachment 1, may, through the long use of the land for the purposes of access and passage, have become a public highway. In order to improve safety and security for the school, the VSBA, on behalf of the school, has requested that council discontinue this road and transfer the land in the road to the Minister for the Crown administering the Education and Training Acts. Council officers agree with the school's view that unrestricted public access to the students' play and learning areas within the school via this road is undesirable and unsafe. The VSBA has agreed to reimburse council its reasonable legal and administrative costs. Given the amount of demonstrated public use, the nature and extent of that use, the presence of alternative pedestrian and cyclist routes in the area via Byron Street to the east and the Anniversary Trail to the west, council officers are of the view that the road is not reasonably required for public access or use and is otherwise amenable to formal discontinuance. While there is an alternative route available to those pedestrians currently using the road, the existence of that alternative route does not on its own justify a decision to support the discontinuance. It is a matter council can consider along with other relevant considerations when determining whether the road is reasonably required for public access. Should council resolve to commence the statutory procedures, a public notice will be placed on council's webpage as well as in the Age. In addition, property owners and occupiers within the vicinity will be advised of the proposal in writing, and a copy of a public notice will be placed at either end of the road for the duration of the submission period, informing of the opportunity to provide feedback. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Hutchinson. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually have a question and then I'd like to foreshadow a motion. Mr Hutchinson, just with regard to the officer's recommendation on screen in the first paragraph, second line, where it refers to the Local Government Act 1989, I just observed with the last motion similar to this that it referred to Local Government Act 2020. So I just wanted to clarify if this element of the Act has now...
Through you, Madam Chair. Some parts of the 1989 Act are still in operation, and this is one of those particular sections.
Look, thank you. I assumed you would have been very thorough with documenting that, but I just noticed in the last motion that it was referring to 2020. So thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one question in relation to the sale price of $1. Given that we've just had two motions where our ratepayers have been able to purchase land, discontinued land at a valued commercial rate, Mr. Hutchinson, could you please explain why we are selling and transferring this land back to the Crown for the sum of $1 plus our costs?
Thank you. Mr. Hutchinson.
Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly the easement is actually on the school's land, so it's not... It's different than some of the other ones we've seen this evening where these were a road on title in the past or a drainage reserve on a title in the past, where this particular easement is part of the school's property. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That appears to have exhausted all questions, so as foreshadowed. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Watson.
Yeah, happy to second the motion.
Thank you. And for the benefit of the mover, is there anyone opposed? It appears not. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will speak very briefly. I want to thank Mr. Hutchinson for his very thorough review and compiling of the report, and very much support this recommendation to see the land returned to the school for social and passive use, as it appears to be somewhat redundant at this stage. So it makes absolute sense. Thank you.
Thank you. As the motion's unopposed, I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll just pause for a moment while Councillor Gillies is recalled to the chamber. Thank you, officers. Welcome back, Councillor Gillies. That now brings us to item 7.7 on the agenda, and that is the proposed City of Boroondara motion for the Municipal Association of Victoria State Council on the 13th of October 2023. And this item will be introduced by Kirsten Ritchie, Coordinator of Governance. Ms Ritchie.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report informs councillors on the proposed motion on the topic of housing and homelessness sector support. There has been a request to slightly change the wording of the motion, which has been made, and we'll show that in red now. If adopted by council, will be put forward to the MAV State Council meeting. Motions that are carried at the MAV State Council become resolutions, and these resolutions are then considered by the MAV board when setting the strategic work plan for the MAV. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms Ritchie. Councillors, are there any questions for officers? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I left my light on. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Watson.
Happy to move the motion as printed.
Thank you. That time will be now. There appear to be no questions. I'll search for a seconder. Councillor Stavrou. Thank you. Councillor Watson, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you very much. Over the last couple of terms as a councillor, I've certainly been acquainted with the needs of the community in regards to this issue, and I'm very supportive of this motion and want to thank Councillor Biggar for her attention, and it was her request that there were some modifications done to the motion, so I acknowledge the work that Councillor Biggar has done. if supported tonight, I look forward to presenting this motion at the MAV State Council on the 13th of October.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Stavro, did you want to make any comment? It's not opposed, but...
No, it's unopposed. Look, the only thing I would say is it is a big issue in our community, and any help would welcome. So.
Thank you. And Councillor Biggar, if you wish to speak to it, you're welcome to. No? No worries. Thank you. The item is unopposed. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to item 8 on the agenda of general business. Councillors, are there any items of general business this evening? I think we have a couple. Councillor Gold.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Look, it's maybe a minor detail, unaccustomed as I am to moving such things. When reading reports, I often see references to attachments, but the attachments are never labelled as such. I think it's common business practice to label an attachment as an attachment. Hasn't been a problem tonight on all the property dealings put to us because they were obvious, but I just don't see it in any of the reports. So it's a general query. If it worries no one else, it doesn't worry me, but I just thought I'd raise it.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. That is noted. Any other items of general business? Councillor Park, did you have an item of general business?
Well, I can't move it myself, so not as yet.
Did you want to declare a conflict so that... So the only other matter that I'm aware of is the leave of absence for Councillor Park and for Councillor Biggar. So if we might put that up on the screen. And
Chair, I have a conflict to that.
Thank you, Councillor Park.
As do I.
Thank you, Councillor Biggar. We'll just wait a moment until Councillors Park and Biggar leave the chamber. Sorry. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Happy to support the motion put before us. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Franco. Thank you. And is anyone opposed to the motion that is on the screen? Surely not. Now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Would you like me to read it out?
Sorry, it was not a Monday.
Might have been leaning on a mouse or a space bar there. So the leave of absence is on the screen there, and we'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried. Is there an issue with those dates, Councillor Gold? All right, we might just pause for a moment there and seek some advice before we might need to move a rescission motion or something silly. Bear with us a moment. All right, councillors, I'm advised that we don't need to move a rescission motion, but we can just affirm what is on the screen there. Are there any further issues with what's typed on the screen? I'm getting thumbs up. No problem. That's the motion that was carried unanimously, unless I hear anything otherwise. To 1 October or to 10 October? To 1 October? 1 October. 1 October. No problem. We will now recall councillors Park and Biggar. Welcome back, Councillor Park and Councillor Bigger. That brings us to item 9 on the agenda. If there are no, I assume there are no further items of general business. I didn't see any other lights on. Urgent business, councillors. Are there any items of urgent business this evening? It appears not. Item 10, confidential business. I don't believe we have any of those either. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. And before I close the meeting, I'll thank all those that have joined us in the gallery and online this evening, and now declare the council meeting closed at 7:09. Thank you.